There is a kind of tiredness that sleep cannot cure. Not the heaviness of the body after labor, not the dull ache of muscles asking for rest, but a deeper fatigue, a silent one. The kind that lingers even after 8 hours of sleep, follows you into quiet moments and whispers through your thoughts as fog, distraction, and emotional dullness. Ancient traditions knew this exhaustion well. They did not call it burnout. They did not blame productivity, screens, or modern life, though those are symptoms. Instead, they spoke of a mind that is awake but never at peace, a brain that is constantly listening for danger, even when none is present. Let me ask you something unsettling. What if your brain is not tired because you do too much, but because it never feels safe enough to stop? In old esoteric manuscripts, fatigue of the mind was described as the lamp burning without darkness. A flame meant to illuminate the night, left burning endlessly under the sun. Not because it must, but because it forgot how to turn itself off. This video is not about motivation, it is not about discipline, and it is not about pushing through. It is about a hidden mechanism inside your nervous system, one that ancient mystics, monks, and early physicians understood intuitively, but modern life constantly disrupts. A mechanism that quietly drains mental energy, dulls creativity, and leaves you feeling perpetually exhausted, without any clear reason. Today we will explore why your brain may be stuck in a state of permanent vigilance, how ancient spiritual traditions explained mental fatigue long before neuroscience, the unseen cost of a nervous system that never completes its cycles, and most importantly, how to begin restoring the kind of rest that sleep alone cannot provide. This is not mystical poetry for its own sake, nor is it shallow self-help. What you are about to hear sits at the intersection of ancient wisdom, modern neuroscience, and lived human experience. If you have ever felt tired for no reason, distracted despite effort, or emotionally flat despite rest, then this message is not random. It is timely. And by the end of this journey, you may realize that your exhaustion has never been a weakness, but a signal, quietly waiting to be understood. Long before the language of neurons, hormones, and cognitive load existed, ancient civilizations spoke of a restless mind as a spiritual condition, not a personal failure. In early Taoist texts, there is a recurring warning. When the spirit is unable to return to its root, the mind becomes exhausted. To them, mental fatigue was not caused by thinking too much, but by thinking without returning, a state where awareness moves outward endlessly, never completing its natural inward cycle. Similarly, in ancient Indian yogic philosophy, the mind was described as a flame fed by prana, or life force. When prana circulated smoothly, clarity and vitality arose naturally. But when prana became trapped in constant outward attention toward threats, tasks, desires, or vigilance, the flame burned unevenly. The result was not collapse, but chronic dimming, a mind that functions yet feels perpetually drained. Even early Christian mystics spoke of this state. The Desert Fathers, monks who withdrew into silence, described a condition they called acedia, a spiritual weariness that felt like boredom, heaviness, and loss of meaning. Not sadness, not despair, but a quiet inner exhaustion that made prayer feel hollow and thought feel slow. They believed it arose when the soul was never allowed to fully rest in presence. What is striking is this. Across cultures, eras, and belief systems, mental fatigue was never treated as a problem of effort. It was treated as a problem of orientation. The mind, they believed, was designed to move in rhythms, outward into the world, inward into stillness. Action followed by return, attention followed by release. But when return does not happen, something subtle breaks. In ancient Chinese medicine, this was described as Shen disturbance. The Shen, often translated as spirit or mind, was said to reside in the heart. When the Shen could not settle, the person experienced poor memory, shallow sleep, constant mental noise, and a sense of tired alertness. The body rested, but the mind stood guard. This idea appears again in Sufism, where scholars warned against ghafla, a state of heedless awareness, not ignorance but distracted wakefulness, a mind that is technically conscious yet never fully present. Over time, ghafla was said to drain the himma, the inner force that fuels clarity, intention, and vitality. None of these traditions blamed the individual. They blamed interrupted cycles. The brain, they believed, is not meant to be on or off. It is meant to oscillate between engagement and surrender, focus and safety, alertness and trust. Modern neuroscience is only now catching up to what these traditions hinted at symbolically. That a mind which never feels safe enough to complete its cycles of vigilance will feel tired, even in rest. And this brings us to the heart of the issue, because the real question is not why you think so much, but why your brain refuses to stand down. Imagine a watchtower built on the edge of an ancient city. Its purpose is simple: remain alert, scan the horizon, and warn of danger. But imagine if the guards in that tower were never told when the war ended. No signal of safety, no lowering of weapons, no permission to rest. That watchtower is your brain. More specifically, it is the survival circuitry woven deep into your nervous system. Its job is not happiness, creativity, or fulfillment. Its job is prediction, detection, protection. In healthy cycles, this system activates, resolves, and then releases. But when release never comes, the brain does not collapse. It adapts. And adaptation in this case looks like constant low-level fatigue. Here is the hidden truth most people never hear. Your brain spends enormous energy not on thinking, but on checking whether it is safe to stop thinking. This is not poetic metaphor. It is biological reality. When your nervous system senses uncertainty, emotional, social, existential, or environmental, it shifts into what ancient texts symbolized as the guarded mind. Modern neuroscience calls this persistent sympathetic dominance. But the experience is the same: heightened alertness without resolution. Your heart rate may appear normal. Your breathing may seem calm. Yet beneath the surface, micro-adjustments are happening constantly. Muscles subtly tense, attention scans, thoughts loop, not to solve problems but to maintain readiness. This is why mental fatigue feels so different from physical tiredness. You are not exhausted because you work too hard. You are exhausted because your brain has been holding a posture for too long. Think of holding your arms slightly raised, not high enough to feel painful but not low enough to relax. At first it is barely noticeable, but over time the strain becomes unbearable. The mind works the same way. Ancient yogic texts described this as prana being pulled upward without grounding. Sufis described it as the heart leaning forward. Taoists spoke of qi rising without returning to the dantian. Different languages, same phenomenon. A tension that never settles. Another crucial piece often misunderstood. This state is not always caused by fear. Sometimes it is caused by meaninglessness. When the brain cannot predict what matters, when goals feel unclear, values feel unstable, or life feels directionless, it stays alert. Not because it knows what to do, but because it fears missing what it should be doing. This creates a subtle background anxiety that rarely feels like panic. Instead, it feels like mental heaviness, lack of motivation, shallow focus, and emotional flatness. And here is the paradox. The more you try to push through this state, the more the brain interprets effort as confirmation that danger still exists. So it stays on guard. Sleep does not fully fix this because sleep restores the body, but vigilance lives deeper. It lives in patterns of safety, trust, and resolution. And unless those patterns complete, the brain never fully powers down. In the next part, we will go deeper into the lesser-known mechanisms that lock this state in place and why modern life unintentionally trains the brain to stay tired. There is a moment often unnoticed when the brain decides whether it is allowed to rest. This decision is not logical, it is not conscious, and it is not based on facts, it is based on signals. Your nervous system is constantly asking one silent question: is it safe to let go now? Ancient traditions understood this intuitively. They did not speak of neurotransmitters, but they spoke of closure, of cycles that must be completed, of actions that must return to stillness or else remain unfinished in the psyche. In modern terms, your brain is designed to complete stress loops. Every alert state is meant to end with a clear signal of safety. In nature, this happened automatically. Danger appeared, action followed, safety returned. The loop closed. Modern life breaks this pattern. Emails have no ending. Social comparison has no resolution. Uncertainty has no clear boundary, so the brain never receives the signal it is waiting for. And here is the subtlety few people realize. The brain does not need real danger to stay alert. It only needs unresolved perception. This is why people can feel exhausted while sitting still, why the mind races even in calm rooms, why rest feels shallow and unsatisfying. The ancient Stoics warned of this exact condition. They called it prohairesis, without completion, constant internal readiness without decisive action. A mind prepared to respond yet never allowed to conclude. Over time, the brain begins to conserve energy by dampening higher functions. Creativity fades. Memory feels unreliable. Emotions flatten. Not because the system is broken, but because it is overwhelmed. This is known in modern neuroscience as protective inhibition. The brain lowers output to survive constant alertness. Ancient mystics simply called it the dimming of the inner lamp. And here is the most important insight. Your brain cannot rest until it feels safe, not intellectually but physiologically. Safety is not an idea. It is a bodily state. Slow breathing helps, but only if it communicates genuine resolution. Meditation helps, but only if it signals completion, not effort. Silence helps, but only if the nervous system trusts it. This is why some people feel worse when they try to relax. The body is still alert, but the mind is told to stop. The mismatch creates tension. The exhaustion deepens. Ancient practices addressed this not by forcing calm, but by guiding the body through recognizable endings. Rituals, movements, rhythms, postures, repetitions that told the nervous system, this cycle is finished. When the brain senses an ending, it releases energy. When endings disappear, fatigue becomes the background state of life, and this leads us to the practical question, the one that matters most. How do you give your nervous system the safety signals it has been waiting for? That is where practice begins. If the brain feels tired because it never completes its cycles, then the solution is not more rest, but clear endings. Ancient traditions did not heal exhaustion by chasing relaxation. They restored resolution. They gave the nervous system unmistakable signals that a phase had ended, that vigilance was no longer required, that the watchtower could lower its guard. Here are practices drawn from that same logic, simple, subtle, and powerful when done with intention. First, the ritual of deliberate closure. At least once a day, choose one small action and end it consciously. This could be as simple as washing your hands, closing a notebook, or standing at a window. But the key is this. When the action is finished, pause for 3 slow breaths and internally mark the ending. Not with words, with sensation. Feel the weight of your body. Let your eyes soften. Exhale fully as if sealing a chapter. Why this works? The nervous system recognizes completion through sensory finality, not logic. These small closures train the brain to expect resolution again. Second, the exhale that signals safety. In many ancient breathing practices, the exhale was emphasized over the inhale, not to slow the breath, but to finish it. Once or twice a day, practice this. Inhale naturally through the nose. Exhale slowly through the mouth, slightly longer than the inhale. At the very end of the exhale, pause, not holding, just resting, for one brief moment. That pause is crucial. It is the nervous system's punctuation mark. Do this for 5 rounds. This is not about calming down. It is about signaling completion. Over time, the brain relearns that letting go does not lead to danger. Third, the body ending the mind forgot. Mental fatigue often persists because the body never finishes what the mind started. A simple practice: gentle full body contraction and release. While standing or seated, lightly tense the muscles of your arms, legs, and torso for 5 seconds. Then release completely. Let the body soften downward. Repeat 3 times. Ancient martial and contemplative traditions use this to discharge unexpressed readiness. The body completes the stress loop. The brain follows. Fourth, one boundary, clearly kept. Choose one daily boundary and defend it gently but firmly. 1 hour without screens, 1 walk without input, 1 meal without distraction. Not as discipline, but as predictability. The nervous system relaxes when it knows something will end and something else will begin. Boundaries restore trust in time itself. Common obstacle: I don't feel anything. This is normal. Remember, fatigue is not healed by instant sensation. It is healed by repetition that rebuilds trust. You are not trying to feel calm. You are teaching your brain that endings exist again. And once the brain believes that, energy returns naturally, not as excitement, but as clarity. If there is one truth worth carrying from this journey, it is this: your tiredness was never a failure of will, discipline, or strength. It was a message, spoken quietly, patiently, and often ignored. Ancient wisdom did not see mental exhaustion as something to conquer. It saw it as something to listen to, a signal that a cycle remained unfinished, that vigilance had outlived its purpose, that the inner watchtower had forgotten how to stand down. Your brain did not betray you. It protected you, perhaps for too long. And in doing so, it learned a habit it no longer knows how to release on its own. This is why forcing rest never works, why motivation fades, why even stillness can feel restless. Because what you have been missing was not sleep, but resolution. When you begin to offer your nervous system clear endings, small, embodied, undeniable signals of safety, something ancient awakens. Energy returns not as adrenaline, but as quiet presence. Focus sharpens without effort. Thought slows without dulling. Fatigue loosens its grip, not because you fought it, but because you understood it. Remember this: the brain is not healed by being told it is safe. It is healed when it feels safe enough to let go. So tonight, do not ask yourself how to rest better. Ask instead, what has not yet been allowed to finish? Let one thing end, fully, gently, consciously. And in that ending, you may find the rest you have been searching for all along. If this insight resonated, sit with it. Try the practices, observe the subtle shifts. And if you feel called, continue exploring. Because many of the most powerful transformations happen not when we push forward, but when we finally allow something to close. Until then, remain curious, remain attentive. And remember, tiredness is not always the absence of energy. Sometimes it is the absence of an ending.